Joined now by our Blue Jays reporter Scott Mitchell. And Scott, you've taken your annual Top 50 Jays prospects list and given it a different midseason look by separating the players into distinct groups. Now, your top tier has just 3 players in it. So what stands out to you about this small group?
Well, the thing that stands out is there's a clear top 3 based on talent and upside. And then once you get to number 4, number 5, you can really start debating 3 to 5 names at each spot, and it becomes really subjective. And when you look at these top 3, they're pretty much the same 3 names that we saw in January, just a little bit of a shuffle. At the top, Ricky Tiedemann, really a lost year due to injuries, shoulder issue in spring training, followed by a bicep issue that still has him sidelined. He's expected back, so he's going to pitch at some point again this year. So it's really a holding pattern for him, but the immense upside is still there. Same with Brandon Barriera. He was the number 2 prospect in January. He slides down to number 3. He's had shoulder and elbow issues as well this year. And then Orelvis Martinez is one of the better stories in the system. He's kind of ebbed and flowed with his prospect status over the last couple of years, but this year he's made some real strides in terms of swing decisions. He's cut the strikeout rate to a real modest 20%, and the light tower power is still there. So he's a real interesting name in terms of what the Blue Jays could do with him potentially in terms of a number of scenarios. Next year, Matt Chapman is headed for free agency after this year. Whit Merrifield has a contract option that might not be picked up. So there could be a couple infield spots available, but this also might be a guy that they want to build a blockbuster type package around if one presents itself over the next couple of weeks, just because of how good his first couple months have been this season.
With the trade deadline less than 2 weeks away, you've identified the Jays group of top infield prospects as the most realistic trade chips. Why is that?
Well, look, you can look at this system, and there's not a lot of outfielders in it. There's not a lot of pitching. That's something the Blue Jays continue to focus on, is trying to develop pitching, especially starting pitching. And when you look at if there's a strength, it's probably in the infield. There's a number of kind of versatile infielders that have different profiles. You can start with Martinez at the top. You can look at Addison Barger, who's really struggled with an elbow injury this year, and the power's down, but he's in AAA. He could interest teams. Otto Lopez as well. Leo Jimenez might be the one to keep an eye on. He's in AA, having a real nice season, and he's already on the 40-man roster. Kind of redundant in Toronto. He's a guy that could be a trade chip. And then you look at the lower levels. Tucker Toman, one of their picks from 2022, one of their early picks, as well as Manuel Beltre, one of their international free agent signings pretty recently. These are guys that kind of, when you look at the Blue Jays system and stack it up, there is some depth to it, so maybe that's where the Blue Jays prefer to deal from over these next couple of weeks.
And with the draft now behind us, what's your overall impression of the Blue Jays system right now?
Well, look, you have to take into the context first. They've graduated and traded a whole boatload of prospects over the last 3 or 4 years. You know, Alejandro Kirk, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette. There's guys like that in the lineup, and then there's guys like Austin Martin that they've traded away in the Jose Barrios deal. So there's a reason that this system isn't as thick as it once was. And when you look at it, middle of the pack might be nice. It's probably more of a bottom third farm system. This year's draft class really provides a little bit of an influx of talent that's really important moving forward. But what the Blue Jays are going to need is they're going to need some of their big investments over the last couple of years to really develop. And Manuel Bonilla is a guy who's still just 17, but they gave him $4.1 million. He's in the Dominican Summer League. Toman is a guy I mentioned. Barriera and Tiedemann will probably say how this system is evaluated in a couple of years when all is said and done. But the Blue Jays are trying to develop pitching, but they're also wary of emptying it out too much over these next couple of weeks. So tricky trade deadline for GM Ross Atkins to navigate in terms of their farm system.
All right, our Blue Jays reporter, Scott Mitchell, thank you.